Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Depths of Laughter podcast. I am Vince Hoover, joined as always, just down beneath me is Denise Jackson. Please, as always, if you're on YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you know every time we go live. We've got this podcast as well as the Geeks and Noobs podcast. Um, hold on, one of our people that are trying to watch don't understand how YouTube works, so I have to explain.
Speak out loud. You clicked
So-
the link I sent you.
Yeah.
We love you, Monica. Anyway.
I think she thought that I was inviting her to join as to be on the podcast.
Oh, poor thing.
I don't think
She can if
she
she
quite got
wants
it,
to.
but that's all right. Anyways, so
We
with
love
that being
her
said,
comments and stuff. Yeah.
on YouTube, please jump in there. You got the chat there. Also on Twitch, which we just got another subscription on Twitch, and that was Jacques. So thank you very much for that, Jacques. That always helps. On Twitch, hit the follow button, hit the heart button, and if you could subscribe, that'd be fantastic. If you have a Prime a Prime account with Amazon Prime, you can use a Prime subscription, make Jeffrey Bezos pay for it, and then there you go. That's how we stick it to the billionaires, $5 at a time. So in other
Every
words,
penny counts.
literally a penny to a billionaire. So yes, please do all of that. So today's episode, we kind of didn't have a topic in mind, but we actually did, and it was something we talked about last week. And I don't want to keep harping on this, but we have talked about my current health situation and things going on there. I actually have a very big day ahead of me tomorrow. I have a little litany of tests I have to do all day long tomorrow to get some answers, which will be good. But during our conversation, I made a joke about not being here much longer. And for me, again, humor is about helping with the trauma. However,
Right.
Denise heard that and she didn't like it. And it actually made her hurt. And that's what got us thinking, what happens when a joke hits too close to home?
Right.
So that's kind of where we're going to be on today. It's going to kind of revolve around that. And again, be all over the place because that's what we do best.
Yeah.
But there are times when a joke hits too close to home. And that was a particular example. I don't exactly remember what I said.
It
but
was just a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Monica's really having a hard time with this. She is not getting it. I'm going to send her the Twitch link.
Okay.
Maybe that'll help her.
Well, while you're doing that, I want to talk about I watched Drew Lynch, and I'd never watched him before, and he has a stutter, but like you don't really like pay attention to that when you're watching him. He's just so freaking funny. But he commented that a guy like came up to him after the show and he was like, "Do you realize you have a stutter?" And he was like, "What? How serious is it?" Just like, I love that. And then it makes me think about it was Chad Daniels when his friend had the cleft palate.
Yeah.
And then the lady at the register, or
are you making fun of me? No, I'm not making fun
has
of
a
you.
cleft palate too, and they're like, we're going back with their cleft
Man,
palates.
he does not have a cleft palate.
Well, I mean, that's pretty funny though.
Yeah, and see,
But taking something that you have though and turning it into a joke, like that's, I mean, so I get like it's touch and go. It's a sensitive subject when you're dealing with something like that. You know, and so if you can find humor in it, then that's great.
And that's the thing, like, you watched, Drew Lynch talk about his stutter, and the person, like, do you know you have a stutter? And he's talked about people who have stutters coming to him, and some of them really love the fact that he can make light of this massive injury that he had playing softball that created this. It also stunted his growth. I think he's like 5'3" or 5'4". Like it did a lot.
He did say that, yeah.
It did a lot to him. It didn't just give him a stutter. It is,
That's crazy.
and then you got like the cleft palate joke, and then you've got like Patton Oswalt who I actually had the great fortune of asking a question today during a Twitter AMA.
Awesome.
Um,
Speak more
and
on that. I want to hear what happened.
he actually, it leads right into what I'm saying, because I
Yay.
asked him, what does he feel about trauma being the foundation for comedy? Anybody who's never seen it, please go on Netflix. There is a Patton Oswalt stand up called Annihilation.
Okay.
And it was his first stand up after a year after his wife had unexpectedly passed away.
Oh, I remember
And
watching that.
the second half of it is very emotional because that's when he gets into that stuff. And he talked about how, you know, he believes that while not all comedy is based in trauma, the best comedy is.
Mm-hmm.
And that in his case, obviously the trauma of losing a wife, that's massive. That's
Right.
insane. And it took him a year to get comfortable enough to talk about it. And that for a lot of people, like, it was slightly uncomfortable in the crowd, but at the same time, they're laughing because he was able to make jokes with the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, where he talked about, trying to go down to her gravestone and talk to people. And there was this Middle Eastern family that were yelling at each other, and this Chinese family that were playing uh, Candle, or I think it was either Candle in the Wind or Careless Whisper on a boombox, but with no bass whatsoever. It was all treble. And he was trying to talk with her, and he's just like, you know what, you're a ghost. Get in the car with me and just follow me back and listen to me there. But like he was able to make jokes about it, but you could also see him welling up, and you could see him like struggling through talking about it. But
Yeah.
what happens when a joke, like, you don't have a stutter,
Right.
you're not a widow, you don't, these things don't affect you directly. Obviously they can affect you because you're a human being and you have emotions and you have sympathy and empathy.
Yeah.
But what happens when a joke hits you directly?
Right.
So, like, when I made the joke the other night, and it's just like, oh, it hit a little too close to home.
Right.
So, is it up to a comedian to understand that line, or is it up to an audience member to understand that the comedian means no harm?
I would say a little bit of both because I saw like the humor in it, but then like the feels like took over more so than the joke. So I was like, mm.
So, using the example of me,
Yeah.
was I out of line to make a joke in
No,
that moment?
you're never out of line. Like you, I don't think that that anybody's ever out of line with what they say. Like you have to process it somehow. If you don't process it, then I don't know. Like I just yeah. And if you say it especially to people that love you, then at least we feel comfortable to not give you some just random ass response. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I get it, dude, but yeah. How about don't say that again? What's going on with you? You look
Yeah.
very like distraught.
No, I'm looking over everything going on. Um, Trying to like manage everything. Trying to make sure we're not getting kicked off again like
Oh
last
yeah,
week, which
true.
we've
Yeah.
got that figured out. Hopefully, right now it still says we have excellent. We're good. We shouldn't have any issues
Okay.
like we had last week,
Okay.
thankfully. But I'm gonna keep a close eye on it. So if I keep looking around, that's why. But also I'm trying to keep an eye on chat. And Jacques says he also thinks it's the responsibility of both, but it's also more the audience responsibility not to take it too seriously. And it is a comic's job to
Right.
toe the loin. And then he corrected toe, but didn't correct loin in his spelling. He's supposed to be line. Well done, Jacques.
Mm,
Um,
loins can be affected too.
yeah, yeah. If that joke's a low blow, it'll affect your loins.
I mean,
Yeah.
uh,
But I mean, obviously there's a timing issue. Um, I think in my particular situation, I'm almost looking at it like Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool kind of thing, where I have to joke because I can't accept it.
yeah.
Um, but I didn't consider anybody else's feelings in that moment.
Yeah, I
And
mean, why? Like, why does other people's feelings have to come first?
well, I mean, would you say that about anything? Like, wouldn't you say like You could walk in, you know, walk into a gas station and have your phone on speakerphone and having a
Well,
super
yeah.
loud conversation. You're just being rude, but oh, well, their feelings don't matter. No, I mean, everybody's feelings matter. And as a performer, you're performing for them, not to them. And I think there's a lot of comedians forget that. A lot of comedians forget you're not performing to them. You're performing for them. These people paid their hard-earned money to come see you and to be entertained. So, at the same time, at the same time, I don't think a comedian needs to walk on eggshells necessarily with a crowd. If they have something to say, they should say it. And you have to understand that this is the thing we talked about with comedy being subjective.
Right.
You're never going to get everybody.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. You're never going to get everybody. There's going to be somebody, especially when you start getting into that darker stuff, that could be offended or could be affected by what you had to say.
Yeah.
Now, the best people, the best audience members who may be affected by that aren't going to hold it against you.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be the ones that come up to you after the show to tell you they were offended. So they're not going to be the ones, they're going to be like, you know what, that joke necessarily wasn't for me. The intent obviously was not to harm me. This comedian doesn't even know me. So while that hurt, I felt that it hit a little too close to home. I'm not going to hold it against the comedian nor the rest of the show.
I think
And
a lot of really good comics though, like, know that. Like, they
would you mind
say
turning your
really
ring light up just a little bit? Because as the sun
Oh
went
yeah.
down, it got darker in there.
Yeah. When they tell like serious jokes, they usually do have something really funny to pick it up.
That's
Is that
perfect.
better?
That's perfect. I think that again, well, hello, Monica, and thank you for subscribing. You got a dancing penguin as well. Yay.
I want a dancing penguin.
You've already subscribed and gotten your dancing penguin.
Well, dang, I want another one.
Well, I mean, I don't recommend it, but you could unfollow and refollow.
Oh no, I don't know. Not
Um,
that serious.
yeah, but it's by the way, it's the dancing penguin from Adventure Time.
Nice.
Yeah,
Oh my god, that's awesome.
yeah. So Monica, welcome to the chat as well. Yeah. What was I saying?
We were talking
Dancing
about
penguin
how
through my.
comedians can talk about dark stuff, but then they usually pick it up with like a really like crowd picker upper joke that makes everybody laugh again. So it's like a roller coaster ride with a really good comedian that actually has something really prevalent to say.
Yeah.
It usually feels like you're on a roller coaster ride.
Yeah. I think one of the greatest examples currently is Daniel Sloss. Like I said, I recommend everybody watch his specials that are on Netflix. He has two specials on Netflix, one called Dark, one called Jigsaw. It's actually in a set, so when you click on his name, it's both specials.
Okay.
He also has one on HBO Max called X. That's his latest one. That one gets incredibly, incredibly dark and incredibly, incredibly poignant because he's speaking about sexual assault in the second half of it. But again, and this again speaks to hitting too close to home because he's telling the story of his friend who was unfortunately sexually assaulted by somebody else in their friend group. Like it was very close to home. But he also talked about how this female friend of his is one of the funniest people ever, and she was telling jokes immediately as she told him what was going on. And she made one joke that literally brought him to his knees, and he reenacted that on the stage. He's like, "You've got to stop." And she's like, I told him this, and when he says, "You've got to stop that right now," she goes, "Yeah, that's what I told him too," and he didn't listen. Boom. He's like, oh.
Oh,
he's like, that hurt so much, but it also hurt because she's so much funnier than I am. Like, that was how, like, but he was like, in the moment, like, that is funny, but it also hurts a whole lot.
Don't you think that that's awesome though? Like, that's a huge, like, blessing to have, like to be able to take a circumstance and turn it into laughter. I understand that it's like a band-aid, and I understand that it's, like, I mean, you can speak to it, but
Yeah.
I would much rather process things from a comedic standpoint than just like being super depressive and
Yeah.
like just
So
living
let
in my bat cave or whatever.
let me speak on
Okay.
that, because it is in a way a blessing, but it is also a major curse.
I'm
Because the
sure.
reality of it is you're not processing it in
I
that
mean,
moment. What
you
you're
might be.
doing is you're trying to turn it into a joke, to downgrade the moment from what the horror of it is
Yeah.
to a joke. You're not actually processing it. It, like you said, band-aid, but more so you're almost trying to bury it with laughter. And so,
Yeah.
like, when I made my joke to you on the phone, it was literally, I can't handle the fact of what I'm about to say if I was to say it as a normal statement. So I have to turn it into a joke to where it doesn't mean anything. And I've taken the weight of the situation out of it so that I can deal with it. But in turn, it affected you. Like, and that's like, again, this, and that's why I tell everybody, please, please, please go watch Daniel Sloss's X on HBO Max.
Mm-hmm.
It's phenomenal. It's so funny. He is so incredibly talented. For such a young guy, I think he's not even, like, he might be 30 now, maybe. Um, but man, it's just like, it brought him to his knees when she was making these jokes in the moment, because one, it was too real. Two, it was too soon. Three, he knew, as a comedian, he realized she's not okay. She's not processing this well, and she's using humor to mask the situation rather than deal with it.
Dude, I don't
Because
know. Like, that's
it was literally
subjective
that, because with in
though.
this situation, in this, unfortunately, in most sexual assault situations, the person doesn't speak up for a long time because they're trying to deal with it. This was the next day. This was literally the day after it happened. He went home early. It was two different friend groups that had come together, with him as the common denominator. But he left early because he was tired, and then met up with her the next day and asked her how it went, and that's when she told him. Uh, and it was just, uh. So Monica says a lot of
Um,
comedians are in some ways broken. Exactly. Most comedians,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
would say
Yeah.
almost all comedians are broken in some way,
Yeah.
shape, or form, and that's why they do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Monica getting on Jacques about his grammar. Um, Again, still feeling, Jacques says, feeling a comedian. It's a comedian's role to toe the line. You can't know your audience or learn what is and isn't okay without constantly testing the waters. Audience should remove
Oh
their heads from
yeah.
their sphincter, then watch comedy. Now that I
Yeah.
agree with. I agree with the second statement. Is that if you're going to a comedy show,
Yeah.
why are you so uptight? And we saw that in person. We were literally picking
Yeah, we
people out of the
did.
crowd.
Yeah.
Um, but
How do you
like,
just sit there in a comedy show that you paid for with your arms crossed and not laughing? Like, what? Okay, like I get that some jokes like you're like, "Oh, okay." But why are you getting pissed off? Like,
yeah, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. And but like, as far as a comedian's role to toe the line, I don't necessarily agree with that so much. Ricky Gervais has a special coming up on Netflix. He has a new
I
special
like
coming
him.
up.
He's
Love him.
funny. Awesome.
And
Yeah.
in the trailer, it's the opening segment in the trailer, and he's talking about how all comedy really is just a bloke up on stage, and he's looking around. He's like, "All right, I know, sexist bloke." He's like, "There's plenty of funny female comedians like." No, no, no. I'm just being ironic. And he does this whole thing, and then he goes back into that same joke. He's
He's
like,
funny.
and he's like, but that's what he talked about. It's the irony, and you understanding that there's irony in comedy, and that these are jokes. And Kel, I didn't
Right.
expect to see you tonight, but welcome, Kel.
Cal, happy belated birthday.
Uh, Jacques says, What? That doesn't even make sense. When you're towing the line, lol. Toe the line like the line in the sand with your toe. Have I been understanding this wrong the whole life? They're just having a complete conversation in the chat now, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Chat away.
Hold on. We got to get a shout out to Xander. It's his birthday today. And then Jacques' birthday is tomorrow. So happy
Oh
birthday
God, yeah,
to
everybody's birthday.
them.
And then Doctor Strange comes out Thursday.
What's up?
Yay! Denise and I are gonna go see it. It's gonna be awesome.
Yes.
And then of course we've got the final episode of Moon Knight this Wednesday, which Kel will be joining me as we discuss.
I will be in the chat.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Man, I can't believe the final episode.
And somehow it's the shortest episode of the season.
It just started getting good to me. Like I just what?
I loved it. The whole series was great. Hang on, I gotta speak more on the comedian thing. I need to look something up real quick.
More on the comedian thing. Way to put me on the spot.
Well, is it their job to toe the line, or is it their job to just speak their mind?
How about there is no job? How about it's somebody just doing their thing and they're artistic and that's how they choose to express themselves?
Okay, real quick.
Suck a bag of dicks. No, you're not going to interrupt me if you tell me to say something. What are you doing? No.
All right.
No, you're still interrupting. Everybody can suck a bag of dicks if they don't like it. You paid money to go see the show. Just sit there and shut up. Don't be a heckler if you don't like something. Just shut up. Thank you. All right, that's it. Now you can go.
Now, I am known for my idioms. 6 one way, half dozen the other. Just an example.
Oh my God, I hate that one. It's so stupid.
You love it. Jacques, I would like to tell you, as an early birthday present, you were right and Monica is wrong. According to vocabulary.com and getproofed.com, it is commonly misspelled as TOW the line, when the reality is it is TOE the line, based exactly on the example you gave, Jacques. And it is about towing the line in the sand.
Snaps to Jacques.
So, Monica, love you, but you're wrong. And it
watch her look up some shit and it says the opposites.
Yeah, confirmation bias. Let's see how it goes. But I went to vocabulary.com and getproofed.com. Getproofed.com is the proofreading.
Vocabulary.com is the truth.
It is.
It says.
Getproofed.com is the end all be all when it comes to proofreading stuff.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
So that's the other reason I went there.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I didn't know that. So, awesome.
Jacques, you're right. Yeah. Because I had to sit there and go, wait a minute. Have I been wrong all this time too? Because I thought it was toe as well, and I'm all like, I'm the idiom king. I gotta know that if I gotta get it right. And then Monica's like, no, it was true. So she agreed. Okay, cool. Right on. Well, that's the end of the podcast. Win for me. I'm out. No.
Hey.
No. So.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah. If you like being proven wrong, like and subscribe. Well, now that I have Kel here in the chat, I kind of want to let's merge the podcast for a second.
That would be awesome. Yes.
So here's what I want to do. Kel and I realized after episode 5 of Moon Knight that we both need therapy. Because that episode, holy shit. But
I can see that. It was a lot of in your face.
Yeah, so here's another form of art that has had to tread lightly the whole series, because it's talking about DID, which is a very misunderstood and misrepresented disorder that people have, formerly known as
DID. Yeah, say.
Yeah, formerly known as split personality. It's known as dissociative identity disorder.
Say that 3 times fast.
I can't even say it 1 time slow. Dissociative. I can't. It just doesn't work.
I know.
But
DID is so much better.
I can say DID 3 times fast.
That love initials for things.
Yeah, but so they have been misrepresented. Even there's that movie Split with James McAvoy, which ended up being the sequel to Unbreakable. Great, fantastic film. But kind of misrepresents DID. But it's done in a superhero fashion. So that was the worry going into Moon Knight. Again, we're in a superhero world. Are we going to misrepresent it? and
Right.
they've done their best job in trying to not misrepresent the DID. They showed you where it came from, the origin of it in this past episode, and like I started last week's The Geeks and News episode by kicking my chair all the way back like I was in a therapy session. Like, all right, Doc, it started when I was 9. Like, it was just, oh my God, what an episode. And the same thing can
Mm-hmm.
happen in comedy. Um, a great example of that is something that I rewatched Kevin Smith's. It's not necessarily stand up; it's more just him, like a monologue, kind of a storytelling situation. Um, but he ended up after that, after being on stage doing his hour and a half, he got off stage, went in the green room, and had a heart attack that almost killed him. And so it became very different. And so I now with the situation that I'm in, I went back and watched that, and I saw it in a completely different light.
Yay, let's watch things that gave somebody a heart attack when I have the same issue. What the heck were you thinking?
It wasn't the stand up that gave him the heart attack.
Still.
It wasn't like he was screaming and yelling like Sam Kinison for an hour and a half.
Oh my God. How the heck did that guy do that?
Coke. Lots and lots of Coke.
Did you hear that
Lots and lots of
Elon
Coke.
Musk is gonna try to I don't know if it's a joke or not, but he was like, I'm gonna buy Coke now and put
Put the
like actual cocaine back. Yeah.
Well, now that he got approved to buy Twitter, he is now backed out of the deal. He's not even buying Twitter now.
Oh my God.
It's all been one joke from beginning
That's
to end for him.
hilarious.
He's a terrible human being, but whatever. He does do SpaceX. I gotta give him credit. Like, he's done a lot of good things. He's just not a good person.
I don't know. They're saying that now, like, we're not even going to be able to see stars from all the satellite bullshit. Like,
No, it's
just
not. That's not
paraphernalia
true either.
all over the place. Who knows?
That's
dude?
a load of shit too. But
that would suck. Like, as a part redneck, am I in my legal rights to shoot guns and hope to God it like hits a satellite debris and knocks it down so I can?
Well, the
I'm
physics
gonna
of
see
that,
my stars.
the physics of that doesn't work.
I know. I'm just
but
kidding. It's a joke. Ha ha ha. We are like on a joke podcast.
That
right?
bullet will come down, and see, this is when it hits too close to home because you're gonna hit somebody else's home. Literally,
Yeah.
you're literally gonna hit
Yeah.
somebody else's home. Monica asks if you guys are familiar with Ali Wong. I am.
I am too. Yeah.
She is very funny.
Very cute. She was pregnant like for a lot of her stand up.
2 of her specials, she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And they're 2 different it's 2 different kids. It's not even like the same kid.
Funny.
It's like she
yeah.
was the first one was pregnant and then she got pregnant again and then she's like, well, I've been wanting to do this special. So yeah, she did 2 of them where she was pregnant. She's very funny. She did a movie with her and Ray Park. I cannot remember the name of it, saved my life, but Keanu Reeves is in it and he steals the show. It's hilarious. Love it.
Awesome.
By the way, Jacques put headline: Florida man gets drunk, shoots gun at satellites to see stars. Unfortunately, that's a real headline.
Florida.
It's a real headline because it's already happened. It's already happened. This is a real headline. I know he meant it as a joke, but it's a real headline.
Bud Light was definitely involved.
By the way, let's talk more about Florida for just a quick second. There was a guy who just got arrested because he spent 27 years powering his house with an abandoned nuclear missile.
Oh my God. That's kind of ingenious.
He found a nuclear missile
awesome.
in the water 27 years ago and decided to use it to power his house.
That's awesome.
And he got arrested for it. And I'm trying to figure out why.
Yeah.
Because, well, technically,
you're cheating the system.
Technically, he should have turned it in when he found it. Because it's a weapon of mass destruction. So I get that part of it.
Finders keepers, bitch.
But is he getting arrested for just cheating cheating the game and not having to pay the power company for 3 decades?
Yeah, that's all it is. They don't like anybody to get ahead. And somebody must have snitched.
But also,
because snitches get stitches.
Honestly, it's probably the power company realizing that, wait a minute, we power everybody in this neighborhood except for this one house that's been there for 3 decades, and they have never once had a power meter. But here's the thing. That missile, that abandoned nuclear missile, had enough juice in it to power his house for 30 years and probably still had more.
Yeah.
That's the amount of power in a nuclear missile. So I get the weapon of mass destruction part of it, but way off subject, but whatever.
It's still funny.
Because it's illegal to own any unlicensed nuclear radioactive materials, or am I the only one who knows that? No, I'm saying, like, it's also illegal to own a nuclear missile. Like, regardless of the radioactive material, it's a weapon of mass destruction. There's countries that get in trouble for having them if they're not allowed to have them. Like,
I'm
there's no
sorry.
way
If
a
it's the
single
same
person.
thing, if I find it, I'm gonna use it to my benefit too. I found it.
Well, in all fairness,
It's a blessing. Thank
in
you.
all fairness,
Free power.
this guy's still going to be getting free power as he lives in jail and not paying the power company.
Ugh.
So if the power company stitched on him, they kind of screwed up. However,
Ah. But then
regardless,
our tax dollars are paying for it.
Monica's like, "Do
So
you want to live next to a weirdo with a radioactive shit? If it's properly in its shell, I'm okay with that."
yeah, why not? He's probably really good people. You don't know. He doesn't have the worry of an electricity bill, freaking $300 a month.
Yeah, that's why I'm looking.
That would make me freaking happy.
That's why I'm legitimately looking into solar energy. I am legitimately
Right?
looking into solar panels.
That
That is
should just
something I'm
be
doing.
free. That should just be a thing. Like if we're trying to help our planet, that should just be like, oh, the solar dude, do you remember when we drove by like the
Oh my god, yeah, that
freaking
place in
acres and acres of solar panels? Like why is that not like a thing for everybody? It just
yeah, that
doesn't
was
make any
crazy.
sense. Yeah.
But I
Anyway.
mean, there's also ways to do it without having to clear out trees too. So there's all kinds of ways to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That there's no reason why we shouldn't be using the sun to its full abilities
Right.
and not
And
having to
water, the power of water, like everything. Yeah.
wind turbines, the whole
Wind.
nine.
Yeah.
Like we should be all
Ugh,
electricity should be free. Like there's no
I
reason we should be
agree.
paying for. We are so off subject, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Welcome to our podcast. Um,
Hey, just for the record, we should probably put this disclaimer. You do not have to agree with what we say.
yeah,
But if you're a heckler, you can suck a bag of dicks
yeah.
and love you bye.
Just
Anyway.
so back to what we were talking about, trying to transition away from that. Uh, where was I? Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, so humor is an oddball in and of itself,
Right.
and again, it's a mask. It is therapeutic. It is a very good thing. Many comedians are able to work out a lot of trauma through their stand up, but at the same time, it can be just a mask for their trauma
Mm-hmm.
instead of a cure. And especially when it definitely hits too close to home. Monica asked a heckler, um, yeah, we don't like those people who like to shout out at comedy shows, be it they want to include themselves in the show or they
Yeah.
want
They're just
to,
being really extra, Monica.
yeah,
Like they're just like,
or they want to object to something,
they have to say
or
something out loud instead
yeah,
of just sitting there quiet and enjoying the show. They have to like just everybody has to hear my stupid shit that's coming out of my mouth and stop the show from happening.
so I love
Stupid.
like Bo Burnham, like he's just like
Ugh.
he had a heckler and it's like this is a listening show.
Yes, I love that. I love that so
You
much.
listen, I talk.
You you get to laugh. Throw your body parts together when you feel it's appropriate.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Yeah, the only noise you should be making is laughter and claps.
Yeah.
So hecklers can go to hell.
And also they probably have a shit brain anyway.
And I think in their hell they need to be up on stage and have people yelling at them.
That would be
Like
hilarious.
make them perform for all eternity.
Yes.
And make people heckle them the whole time.
But we digress.
Yeah.
Next.
So but like again, I want to go back to the whose responsibility is it? Because again, like I have to use this as an example because you and I both lived it in that moment. Like that joke affected you. Like
I don't think responsibility is the right word. I think that's what I'm having a problem identifying with. Like, can you think of another word that's going to be different? Because responsibility just makes me feel like you're not allowed to be you. And so, like, I'm not allowed to have my, like, there has to be a better word for that.
Well, let's focus on that moment for a second then. Like,
okay.
Obviously, I had no idea how you would respond. And you know how my brain works. A lot of times it's just quick fire, vomit out the mouth. Like, it's just, it comes out. So, in that moment, you know, you reacted the way you reacted. And unlike a heckler who's pissed off and wants to complain, you said, "Oh, that hurt. That really hurt me." And I end up, like, of course I apologize after, and we kind of talk through it. Comedians don't have that luxury.
Right.
Maybe after the show, maybe, but even then, it's a hassle because the person's going to come to you in almost an attacking fashion, even if they don't necessarily mean it that way. They're coming at you, and of course you're get on a defensive. And
Yeah.
we were able to handle that directly in the moment,
Right.
whereas that joke could have been joke 3 in an hour set, and this person's just been sitting there on it for the rest of the hour before they get a chance to discuss it. And even then, does a comedian then take that joke out because this one person was offended? Because the next town over,
Exactly.
they may not be. So that's why I
Mhm.
mentioned responsibility. Because
Okay.
is it the responsibility of the comedian to change his routine in
No.
case it affects somebody? Or is it up to the audience to go in with the understanding that I may not get everything and something might affect me closely, but it was never intended to be a stab at me?
Then I say it's the audience. If we're gonna use responsibility, then it's the audience, because this, like, that would be like you're a painter and somebody doesn't like the color that you're using, and so they're offended, and so now you can't paint like that just because that one person, but there's going to be like 20 other people that walk into the gallery and want to buy your painting. You know what I mean? Like, no, if that's like your chosen form of expression, and it helps you, who fucking cares? What, are we allowed to say that? Who cares
Yes.
what,
Fuck,
how
shit ass
people
bitch,
take?
cunt, say whatever you want.
I'm just like, who cares
Mr.
how
Fuck You
people take?
Man. I watched that the other night.
Oh my
Hey,
God.
suck my dick, huh? Hey, I love it.
I love you, Eddie.
What have you
I'm
done
just
for me
kidding.
lately? Sorry, I watched Delirious the other night.
That's
Or
awesome.
no,
I love
Raw the other
that
night. It was Raw.
special. Both of them are hilarious.
Yeah.
So amazing. That makes me want to watch them again too.
It's
I
my
got my
house, and
ice
I
cream.
live here.
Yes.
She's singing in
Yes.
Spanish too, Eddie.
It's my casa, and I
Es mi
live
casa.
aquí. And oh, motherfucking punch you in the mouth. Do that one. That's funny. Please.
RCCPTTP. Damn it, you know how to spell it.
That's not it.
I'm trying to remember that one.
Oh, it's he talked about when he got punched in the mouth
Yeah,
at the
yeah, it's all
club,
part of the singing. I'm trying
and
to
then
remember
he
what
looked
song it
like
was.
Jimmy Walker, and then he was
What?
like,
You punched Jimmy Walker in the mouth?
yeah.
Eddie, I like good times. Oh, you got punched in the mouth. Now you look like Jimmy Walker. Oh, that'll do it.
Yeah. And then he's, because he
Nothing
said
from
that
nothing means nothing.
yes,
Had to do something. Motherfucker punch you in the mouth. That's what it is.
because his dad sing.
Yeah. Singing Motown songs.
Yes.
And he's drunk.
It's awesome.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Fuck, I don't know where I was. Welcome to the All Over the Fucking Place podcast.
Yay! You're like,
no.
why, like, you're like taking my F bomb and like running with it
I know.
completely now.
Well, because language is language and words are words. Who gives a fuck?
Well, thank you. Then there you go. Whose responsibility is it to be offended? Should we not say words, or should we rely on the audience being a bit like, same premise? There you go. No. That's how we want to express ourselves. You can choose to not.
I'm going to say this. I think the responsibility is on the comedian in a personal setting, and it's on the audience in a performance setting.
Please.
And the reason I say that,
yeah, please.
So, like, again, going back to our situation, I'm not going to make that joke again because of how it affected you. That's on me. That's my responsibility to not do that again. To try to be a little bit more careful about how I make these jokes. Now, since then, we have had multiple conversations since that day, and I have since made other jokes that have been okay, but that one was kind of severe and dark. Like, that was a really dark joke.
Yeah.
I have since calmed them down based on the audience, but that audience is somebody that I genuinely care and love for. So that's my responsibility. However, if I was to do this on stage,
Yeah.
it is no longer my responsibility to try to cater to one person. Because as much as I love the audience for what they bring me, I don't give a damn about any one of them. I know that sounds so harsh, but it's to make my point.
That makes sense.
On a
Yeah.
personal aspect, I don't give a damn about each one of them in a sense that I don't know them.
Right.
And if they go home butthurt from it, oh well. If they go, like, I'm sorry if it, like, affected you in a way that made your heart hurt,
Yeah.
but it's not my responsibility at that point to let it go. It is up to you to let that go and not let it continue to affect you, and nor continue to affect the rest of the show.
Yeah. Go
So,
talk to your therapist. Don't freaking
yeah.
ruin the show. Knock it off. But
So I think
what are they
that is
saying in the chat thing?
that Monica said, I'm trying to figure out the worst. I don't know what she meant by that. Please elaborate on that. Kel said, screw hecklers. Agreed.
Yay. Yes.
Jacques said, well said. I also agree because I'm very good at this. And then he said, I agree. Difference between telling a joke and performing a set in front of an audience. Yes. So I think, so when a comedian, like say a group of comedians together, it's up to the comedian telling the joke, if he does affect somebody in that group, to be like, let me dial it back. But once you're performing for an audience, your span is not just the people in that group. It is technically for the entire world. So you cannot cater your performance for the entire world. So again, if I was to go up on stage and have that joke in my repertoire, I need to not be scared. Unless, like, if I knew Denise was at the show, I'm not telling that joke. But if it's for an audience of people that I don't know, I'm going to tell that joke. It was very dark, but I thought it was very funny.
I mean, it was, and it, like,
it's also, it was also an in the moment joke, not necessarily a joke you would write, because it was based off the conversation we were having, and it basically had to do with me not being here much longer. So yeah, that sucked.
I mean, I get the joke part, but I was just like, yeah, no more of those, thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
We're good.
So yeah, it's definitely going to be environmentally based. It's going to be based on the environment you're in, and the setting and the conversation.
Yeah.
Versus a performance. So
right.
That's, again, I'm really looking forward to this Ricky Gervais stand up coming up, because he has never pulled punches. So it'll be very interesting to hear this one. And while I don't agree with everything he says, I'm able to watch it and have a lot of fun. Yeah. Also, as a sidebar, coming up, I think in 18 days on HBO Max, there's going to be a documentary on George Carlin. One of the greatest of all time. The Godfather.
I can't think of any jokes offhand. Can you?
Well, he was the one who did the seven dirty words, the words you couldn't say on TV.
Yeah.
A lot of people know him. He was in Dogma. He was the Cardinal in Dogma. He was in a lot of James Bond Bob movies.
Yeah.
He was Rufus in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Bogus Journey. Love George Carlin to death. He is one of the pillars of modern comedy. Lenny Bruce is the one all comedians can go back to. This was the first guy to say a dirty word in a like, he was the first person to basically curse in a comedy show. He went from being, everybody was all in, like, basically a tuxedo on stage telling very clean jokes, to where he's smoking cigarettes and drinking on stage and cursing up a storm. Completely changed the game. But George Carlin was one of the ones who perfected it and made modern comedy what it is today. And he is one of the godfathers of comedy. So that is something I'm really looking forward to watching, and I'm looking forward to discussing, because of his impact. And and his daughter had a big part in this whole thing, very similar to the Robin Williams documentary HBO did, where his son and daughter had a lot to do with it. So it's very impactful. As much as I loved it, I can't watch it anymore. It comes up on my, you should watch this list, and I'm like, no, because I'm going to cry the entire time.
Right. So how, like, where can people find that George Carlin?
That will be on HBO Max in 18 days.
Okay.
So that's like 3 more episodes from now.
Okay.
And then we will discuss it for sure. But yeah,
awesome.
Kel's like, oh, I definitely gotta he's got to renew his subscription to HBO Max for that. It's absolutely going to be worth it. Also, there's a lot of good stuff on HBO Max. I'm finding there's again that Daniel Sloss special is on there called X. Definitely everybody watch that as well. I'd love to do an episode on that because it's so good. Jacques said, didn't he do the versatility of the word fuck? Yes, he did a whole segment on the versatility of the word fuck, which was great.
Awesome.
But so George Carlin, but also again somebody who dealt with a lot of trauma, and in turn used that to shape his comedy. But I believe his trauma was more based on the world around, versus just personal stuff. Like he obviously had personal demons. Another great example of that is Richard Pryor.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was somebody else who didn't pull punches.
Nope.
He literally has a special after he caught himself on fire doing a coke binge and ran naked down the street. Like it was major news. He did a special based completely around that. And he has this character he used to do as like this homeless guy character. He would do it, and normally it was like just like 2 or 3 minutes of a special. He would do that character. He closed out the special with like a 10 minute set with this guy, and it was very poignant and very like this character, and he talked a lot of stuff. Richard Pryor is another one that people should look at as far as like a great example of trauma, and also he talked about how like in that special you hear him talk about that's the second night of the special because the first night he bombed. The first night he couldn't do it. And it was terrible to the point where people were booing. And these were the people in this room were not just any audience. They were Hollywood elite. Like all his friends, all these famous celebrities came out to it. And he
my God.
He couldn't
and they were acting like that?
He couldn't remember his jokes. He kept pausing for long periods. And it got to the point where it was like he had to get off stage.
Oh.
And he talks about that as well. It's like yeah, last night was terrible. And but it was also his first time back on stage in like years and years and years.
Yeah.
So, but he also touched on things that made a lot of people in that audience very uncomfortable, because that audience is kind of the blend of what we're talking about. It was a performance audience, but it was an audience of people he knew. And he also knew intimate details about, including a lot of them having the same drug habits he had, a lot of them having the same vices he had, a lot of them having the same issues he had. And so you can see, like, it'll pan the crowd every now and then, and you can see people visibly uncomfortable. And Richard Pryor just didn't care. And so that would be one of those unique situations. Like, so if I was to do a stand-up special, but fill the crowd with all people I knew, that's slightly different than doing just an audience of strangers.
Right.
So.
Well, I think this was a really, really fun time.
Yeah.
Fun time. Let's see if the audience wants to play like a couple rounds of the game, maybe.
So everybody in chat, if you're down, we'd like to play our meme game. For those of you unaware, I am working on a few videos. I'm still editing them together. They'll be up on my YouTube of this meme game. We played it back in the original version of the Two Geeks and a Noob before it became the Geeks and Noob. We played this game a couple times on the podcast. It's like Cards Against Humanity, but with memes. So I'm putting that together. As soon as our audience starts to grow and do more, we will start to incorporate it into certain podcasts, be it this one or Geeks and Noobs, where you guys can play along. So we'll do that as well. So that's something to keep in mind. Again, thank you everybody so much for tuning in. Please like.
Oh, wait, hold on. Wait.
Oh,
Before you say that, we have other news about the comedian that we're going to be having on.
So we've already told you that how Dane Cook is on the list to be a guest on the podcast, which is
can't
amazing.
Wait to interview Dane Cook.
And I've reached out to several others, but there's another one that I reached out to who has responded back. And let me get his name exactly right so I don't screw this up. Because I always want to say, yeah, it's Nathan. So Nathan Orton. He's a comic out of New York City, and a lot of his stuff is actually trauma based. Like he does a lot of stuff, like he talks about his addictions and stuff like that. It'll be very good for the podcast. It just so happens also that he is the younger brother of WWE superstar, 14-time world champion, 20 years in the biz, Randy Orton.
It's crazy. Such a
Yeah.
blessing. It's gonna be so much fun.
So I'm really looking forward to talking to him. We will talk a very short amount of time about wrestling and
Yeah.
mostly focus on the comedy, but obviously it'd be stupid of me not to at least
Right.
goat over his brother, who is one of my all-time favorites and one of the
Mhm.
greatest of all time.
Mhm.
And of course, he also comes from a long line, his brother being a third generation superstar, his father, Cowboy Bob Orton, who was in WrestleMania 1 in the main event. And their grandfather, Bob Orton, was also a huge name in wrestling
Awesome.
back in the day. So
So
that'll be something we
cool.
talk about. So Nathaniel Orton, or Nathan Orton, see, I keep doing it. Nathan
It's
Orton,
because you're thinking about Nathaniel
Nathaniel Rateliff.
Rateliff
Yeah,
and the
that's
Night
exactly what I
Swiss.
was about to say.
That's why. Yes.
Which,
If
okay,
you guys don't know that,
real
please go
quick
check
side
them
note.
out. Yeah.
Anybody who doesn't know, I'm a huge Supernatural fan. Love the show Supernatural. They're currently doing a convention, a Supernatural convention around the country, and Jensen Ackles actually performs with the band. He played Dean. There's a video online, you can just look up Jensen Ackles SOB. He does "Son of a Bitch" by Nathaniel Rateliff and nails it. Just
Really?
nails it. It's so good. I'll send
Shut
you the
up.
clip.
I'm gonna have to go
It's
watch it. All
so good.
right. Yes, please.
But
Thank you. That's awesome. Maybe you can post it on
yeah.
here for everybody to see.
No, because we'll get hit with a copyright
Oh
strike
yeah,
because of the
never mind.
song. Yeah.
Oh,
So
well, sorry,
yeah.
friends.
Sorry.
Sorry.
But if you're a fan of Supernatural or you're a fan of that song, or if you're a fan of both, please check that out because Jensen just absolutely nails it. Yeah, Kel was like, "Oh, I was going to ask if he was related to Randy. He absolutely is related to Randy. That's not
Yay,
how I
we're
found
so
him. I just
excited.
found his comedy on TikTok, and then I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this guy's funny, and I followed him, and then he has a joke about being part of a famous family. I'm like, a famous family? Wait a minute. And then he talks about his brother being Randy Orton. I'm like, oh, holy crap. And his brother literally just past Monday celebrated 20 years in the WWE and has said he's not going anywhere. So that's pretty
That's
cool.
awesome.
So
We have a lot of
yeah,
fun things
there's a lot of
lined
stuff
up.
coming up.
A
I've
lot
reached out
of
to
lot
several
of
people, including
yeah.
Austin Creed, aka Xavier Woods, um, from WWE, but also Up Down Down and G4 TV.
Mhm.
I've reached out to Patton Oswalt after talking to him today. I reached out. That would be a great one. Um,
I still want Jim Carrey.
yeah, that's the
Maybe
ultimate
somebody
goal.
will like hear this and give me Jim Carrey, please. Thank you.
Yeah, Jim Carrey's the ultimate goal for sure. Love him to death. I reached out, of course, I'm always reaching out to Chad Daniels.
Yeah, that
I've
would be
reached out to
awesome.
Daniel Sloss. I reached out to so many people. Erica Rhodes. Um,
Keep it up.
so there's so
We'll
many
keep it
people.
up.
And if there's anybody else, guys, that you want to see, you let us
Yeah.
know. I will try and reach out to them if you happen to know a comedian, even if they're
Or anybody, yeah, we can just watch their
yeah,
clips and talk about it. That
yeah.
would
If
be
there's anybody
awesome. Yeah.
even if they're like they're just a local comedian, or even if they're an open micer,
Yeah.
I would love to talk to some open micers, people who are just starting out.
Absolutely.
And we have some
Hmm.
of that coming up as well, actually,
Yep.
after, speaking with Kevin McTaggart. Kel, you might know him from TikTok. He's been on my Geeks and News podcast. He's going to reach out to a few people up in Vermont where he's at, that he does comedy shows with, to see about them doing it. So yeah, it'll be great.
So we have
So
interviews coming up and it's
we
going to
have
be a
stuff.
lot of
Yeah,
fun.
the podcast is going to be growing. We're going to be working on marketing. We're still
Hmm.
working on a solidified logo. That's Denise's department. Um, but right now we got the one that you see on our thumbnails. So once she gets that done, I will also get merch done. So that'll be available as well. So we've got a whole bunch of stuff coming up. So again, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you're on Twitch, please follow. Please subscribe. Like I said, Jeffrey Bezos, he can pay for it. Use your Amazon Prime subscription. I get, the money comes either way, and that money comes in. It'll help us diversify, spread out, grow this into something that we can all be proud of.
Oh yeah.
So everybody in
Yeah.
chat, don't go anywhere. I'm going to be sending you guys a link for the Zoom call here shortly. Everybody else, thank you so much for tuning
Twitch,
in.
right? They can watch it on Twitch if they want to, yeah?
Watch what on Twitch?
Can they watch our thing on Twitch?
No. I'm
Oh.
going to record it and just put clips up. I'm not.
Oh.
Yeah. So,
Oh. Well,
way to tease
then
everybody with nothing. Well done. Again, thank everybody so much, and we will see you guys next week.